Hey guys, Nicole here with Obscure Reptiles and Caging, and today we're going to be talking about ball pythons' body language. So let's get started. Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you and talking a little bit about the body language of a ball python. Just by looking at them, you can generally tell what they're kind of feeling for the day. So you have to remember these are wild animals. They're not something that can ever completely be tamed, just like pretty much every other animal in the world. Most that, like let's say your pet dog, you can trust, you can rely on until something happens sometimes, and then you can't. When it comes to these guys, you can trust them to a certain extent. You can go 10, 20, 30 years without ever getting bit, and then you could get bit one day. You have to know when keeping snakes, that's part of it. Sooner or later you're going to get bit. It's totally okay, just like a kitten scratches you, or your dog will play bite or bite too hard sometimes. Sooner or later you're going to get bit. It's totally okay, but there are ways to try to avoid it in certain cases. For example, if you do hook training, we've got an entire video on it. If you are nervous, a lot of times in the cage is when the snake is the worst, and once they get out of the cage, they are totally fine. So this is our boy, Little Tail. He is a Paradox Blue-Eyed Lucy with some GHI birthmarks, pretty much, is the simplest way to explain it. He's still pretty young, so we are working on socializing him. We don't take them out overly often, especially when you are trying to grow up a ball python. He specifically is not really for breeding. Maybe we will one day, but as a general rule with our ball pythons, we don't want to stress them out. We don't want to overhandle them, and some we don't really handle if they're super cage aggressive, or the nicest way of putting it is some snakes just don't like to be handled. Some of them, for example, we have our Purple Passion. Let's see if we got a photo of her. Her name is Mauve. We got her because she was too aggressive and would attack the owner jumping out of the cage. And he was someone who had quite a few ball pythons already. We've had her here almost 10 years now, and with her, anytime you touch her, she will hiss. She doesn't strike at me, but she will hiss. She tries to get away. So if you try to handle her, if I was to try to hold her like this, she'd be very hissy and just very unhappy. It's very stressful for her. Even when we're trying to clean out her enclosure, we try to go as quickly as possible. A lot of times we won't even take her out to clean things unless we're doing a full clean. A lot of times we spot clean twice a week. Won't even take her out to kind of work around her. She doesn't try to hurt us. She doesn't try to bite us. She's not a mean snake. And on top of that, she is a very defensive snake. So ways of knowing right away when you go to handle your snake is what is the way that they're acting towards you. And remember, all snakes have different personalities. We actually have quite a few in our collection that are from people like those similar situations where the snake's very aggressive, and it turns out they just don't like to be handled. It just stresses them out. They're not necessarily aggressive. They're not coming at me trying to bite me. They're very food aggressive, as in when we start feeding with them, because if they hear everybody else eating and they smell the food too much, then they will come flying out of the van a little bit when we open them. But it's good to have a good food response. That means I don't have to worry about them going on food strikes, and I'd rather have a snake that was a little bit more food aggressive than one that was just so laid back that it was afraid of the food. Generally, females tend to be the more food aggressive or spicy of the two, but you can definitely get spicy males like our boy Tyrone. But for example, this boy right here, he is just relaxing. He's really not doing too much. He's just hanging out. Good signs is, one, he's tongue flicking. Sooner or later we'll catch him, do one of those. He's cruising, he's moving a little bit. Normally he isn't crazy active, but he's not super tight on my hand. He's not squeezing very hard, and he's looking around, he's sensing. The reason why he's flicking his tongue is he's getting smells from the outside world and bringing them in to his little pits. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see him because he's so white, but he's got those little holes below his nose but above his mouth. He's flicking around, trying to get some smells going on in there, trying to see what's going on. But number one thing you look for is see how his neck is nice and straight. He's not in a defensive curled back situation getting ready to strike. He is just chilling. He is just looking Doesn't mean he can't bite. They always can bite, but normally in a situation where the snake is in a more relaxed manner, he's not being stressed, he is not angry, he's not defensive, he's not scared, he is just simply sitting. A lot of times ball pythons will curl up in a ball, that's why they're called ball pythons, and they will tightly wrap themselves because they're scared. Other snakes will defend themselves, and the only defense they have is their mouth. So don't think of it as they're trying to hurt you, trying to eat you. That's the only defense they have, is that mouth. There's no arms, no legs, no tail that can like whip you. Like for example, the Ackies, they're also known as spiny tail monitors. They can tail whip you with their very, very sharp tails. It won't really cause a lot of damage, but I'm sure it would sting. But they have nothing like that when it comes to their tail back here. They have no claws, nothing like that. When they go to bite you, it's generally one of two things. It's either they're hungry and they mistake you for a food item, which means they're going to bite you and let go right away because they're going to go, oh crap, that's not a mouse, that's not a rat. Or two, they're being defensive and that you are upsetting them, you're stressing them out. And again, generally it's a quick bite. Sometimes they will bite and hold on and they'll start to wrap you and they are determined that you are a rat, which generally happens if you've been handling rats, mice, you haven't washed your hands, or you're feeding the snakes. But normally, like say I was just sniffing on my finger, he bumped right into my finger and he didn't go to bite it, didn't do anything. His neck is still totally relaxed. And another good sign is see how his head is actually kind of resting on my arm. So all those sensories are right in here. So ball pythons are known to be head shy. The fact that he's okay with touching my body with his head shows that he's not scared, he's not nervous of anything, he's just, again, straight chilling, not worried, just cruising around and exploring. When you go to take some snakes out, some snakes will get better with time, and some snakes just, again, they just don't like to come out. They would be better off as, for example, display animals or breeders. Some ball pythons I bring out are super defensive right away, and I won't push it with them. But I don't like to, like let's say if one bit me, I'm not going to put it down right away. I'm going to give it a minute to calm down, relax, and then I will put it back into its enclosure. If the snake's continuously biting, striking, stuff like that, then I will set the snake down. But if it's just a bite and let's go, then I'll just give it a minute to relax. It knows I'm not food anymore, and most of the time they kind of give up that aggression because they realize you're not food, you're not there to hurt them. One of the biggest things with ball pythons is age. A lot of ball pythons are snippy and feisty and defensive as babies because, again, there's nothing in the world that they can do other than bite you. So they're tiny, you're big, you're scaring them, they don't know what's what, and generally, in my 14 years now of having ball pythons, is once you've had a snake, no matter how aggressive, with age, they calm down. I'm not sure if it's because they've processed, you know what, they're not a threat, I'm bigger, I have nothing to be afraid of, or hey, this person holds me once in a while, they give me food every week, I'm clean, I've got fresh water. Sometimes I get a lady or a fella in my enclosure to breed, and everything is pretty good. And they tend to almost always calm down with age. There are the exceptions like Mauve, but she's just never liked physical contact. Now, when you are holding a ball python, or looking to see how they are acting, if they're hissing, striking, or they have their head in a strike pose, that's a great way to know you probably shouldn't handle them too much or that they're scared. If you hold them and in 5 minutes they calm down, that's great, but in 5 minutes they haven't calmed down, that's just adding more stress to them. See how his neck is totally straight, no back curve, like as in his neck is totally wound up, ready to go, like you guys have seen strike poses on snakes. He has none of that. But keep in mind, see how he's kind of stretching out? If we can get him to do that again. They do have to slightly bend their bodies because they're such heavy-bodied animals. So if he tries to reach, let's say if he wants to come over to this little, quote, branch over here, he will have to slightly curve his body because he's such a heavy-weighted body, they can't hold their body out straight and have leverage. So just wrapping around, some people freak out. They're just wrapping around, holding on. You can very gently just unwrap, just like that. But ball pythons are known for being generally pretty passive, especially when there's no food involved. They're well fed, well cared for. they're not too hard to tell when they're in a bad mood. Striking and hissing is a very, very good way to know something's going on. Or when it comes to seeing them in that strike pose, a lot of times when they're super upset with something, they're going to lock. And no matter which way you move them, they're locked on that one position because they are getting ready or thinking about striking. They will purely lock onto one specific spot. He's not doing any of that. He's not showing any signs. But again, that doesn't mean he won't bite me. He could just decide my finger sitting over here looks like a little snack and might give it a little nibble. Generally, they won't. Personally, when I have ball pythons and I'm looking at their body language, I am looking for how tightly curled up they are. I'm looking at what their head's doing. If their tongue's flicking, they're sensing. It's really good. They generally won't do that very much if they're super stressed out. And after having him out, by the end of this video, we're going to be putting him back and either grabbing another snake, filming another video, whatever we're going to be doing. But when you're holding the animal, just watch what they do. If you've had them out for an hour and they kind of get grumpy, that might be because you're holding them too long. Or you're taking them out every couple of days. It might be too often for them. You're stressing them out. Maybe they were calm in the beginning and now they're stressed. Well, you probably caused that stress. Also, things that I don't do. I don't wrap them around my neck. I don't like letting them get into jewelry. Some people, I don't want him wrapping around the bottom of the chair. I don't want to cause something where he could get stuck and then get scared because now I have to pull him out of something. Like people who have, like, let's say big gauges and they let the snake go through and then they get stuck. People who have clothing, who sometimes have like let's say fishnet type tank top looking things, they get stuck up in there. I try not to let them get stuck so they don't get stressed because now they have to be pulled out of something. I also generally let them go where they want to go. I just kind of stay as a branch. And as you notice, he's totally okay with my hand being over here, but I never recommend how you see several different breeders, keepers. They'll do this in front of the snake's face to get them to strike. That is stressing them out. That is freaking them out. I don't ever do anything like that. Nice, slow, fluid motions. You can hold your hand as long as you're not like wiggling it right in their face to try to encourage them. It's not necessary. Sometimes they'll think it's simply just another branch. But as of right now, they tend to won't bite you too much when you're holding them as you are the tree holding them up. They don't really know that you're a person. They just know something's holding them up and I want to explore. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope it answered some questions for you. If you do have any other questions, you can put them in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We do new videos every single week. So we'll see you guys in the next video.